Hello and welcome to the first episode of Surviving History Today. I'm Suzanne.
And I am Kiki, and behind the camera is our ever loyal companion and partner in crime, Doreen.
You will never actually see her.
Never.
Except
Never.
when she brings tea.
Tea, just tea. Never any cookies. Never any cookies, Doreen.
Shame on you.
Shame. So, today we'll be surviving the time of hunters and gatherers.
But to be a little bit more precise, we're going to talk about how they lived. So if you're searching for something about farming or the early stages of cities and stuff like that, I advise you to look at the next video, not this one. Which is around here, or just press your escape button and you'll be fine.
Ready? Set? Let's go. So, let's start with the basics. The very first humans, or Homo sapiens as we like to call them, came from Eastern Africa. From there on they traveled to Europe and Asia and all other parts of the world. All of this traveling took years and years and years and years and years because they had to do it all by foot. They had no animals yet, no horses, no camels. It must have taken millennia.
Which is 1,000 years.
Exactly. For those of you who want to keep a timeline during this video, what I'm talking about now happened about 200,000 years ago. Meaning we don't really know.
We don't know anything, but we're just guessing, because this is history.
Yeah. But 200,000 years ago is about the time the first Homo sapiens left Africa to explore Europe and Asia. So, interesting fact. What we are discussing right now is not actually history.
But Kiki, I'm sorry to inform you, but this show is called Surviving History Today. And
I
so
know.
therefore we are discussing history, right?
Well, you would say so, but the word history actually means the written past.
That sounds kind of pretentious, but continue anyway.
Meaning that what we're discussing right now is prehistory, since there was no writing and no written sources. Suzanne, are you doing okay?
Well, you just betrayed me, and so did the whole entire history, but let's just say I'm fine.
You want to just go talk for a bit to make yourself feel smart again?
Yes, but before I do that, I shall push you out of the
Oh,
way.
no.
But Kiki, they weren't our ancestors, you say?
Ancestors is a very fancy word for very, 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 very distant relative.
So were the Neanderthal your ancestors? They were Neanderthals your ancestors. But what were they then? I will tell you. So the Neanderthal, they lived as a tribe in the parts of Europe where the climate is very cold and it's snowing and it's freezing and life is very harsh. They were nothing alike the Homo sapiens, except for maybe some bone structure. But anyway, if we were to look at a picture of a Neanderthal and a Homo sapien, you can clearly see the difference. For example, my skin tone is much paler than Kiki's skin tone right now, and my face is very flat and broadened, as are the nostrils. Okay, but this does not mean that they were any less better or inferior or anything like Homo sapiens. Neanderthals used a diverse set of tools actually, and they were very creative. I mean, they lived in shelters, they built fires and stuff like that, and they were very good hunters as well. And what's also very special, Kiki, is that they even buried their dead. And sometimes they even decorated the graves with flowers and such. So what this shows us, Kiki, and you as an audience, is that they set a certain kind of culture for humanity, and we still use that culture today. If you were to bury your goldfish, oh, sorry for you. I feel so sorry. So sad. But we still build like a little cross or anything apart from religion or flowers, and you know, it depicts already this sort of culture, and it was very present even in these early days.
Except if you're a douche pickle. And you just flushed your goldfish.
Poor Nemo.
Poor Nemo.
But they were indeed very creative. And what's also important to state is the fact that the drawings in the caves actually show this, and they tell us a lot about how they lived. Because even though we don't have any written sources, this is very, useful for us. So
Also archaeology.
Also, which is what she's gonna do when she's old, and I'm not.
Archaeology. The answer to everything.
No.
No. But if Neanderthals were so intelligent, then why did they go extinct?
That means they're all dead.
Well, for one, they did not live in the best climates.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as the climate started getting colder, it must have been near impossible to find any kind of food. So a lot of their population just starved and died out. Mostly the children couldn't handle it, meaning their population stopped growing, and they were outbred by the Homo sapiens. Interestingly, before all of this happened, they did actually get a chance to meet their competitor species.
Mm-hmm.
They even copulated. So, in short, the Neanderthals lived in a bad spot, starved, died out, and were outbred by Homo sapiens.
Well, I guess that makes sense, but could you just go back to the part,
To the climate getting colder?
No, after that.
That they were outbred?
No, before that.
They copulated?
Yeah, that part. What does that even mean? I mean, come on.
To copulate.
Yeah.
To do the dirty. To go all the way to woohoo. To make a child. To create.
I get that part. I understand that part, but just okay. So if two different species
Copulated.
copulated, yeah, and they had children, then those children and those parents are still our ancestors, right?
Well, yes, but also no.
Oh.
It is true that 1 in 10 Europeans actually has Neanderthal DNA in them. But this part DNA is so small that you could hardly ever say they were ancestors. Really, they were more like a sort of very distant cousin.
Right. So hunters and gatherers. How did they live? Where did they get their food? Did they buy it at the supermarket? Did they just hunt and gather for it? Well, maybe. Let's find out. So, hunters and gatherers, they were nomads, meaning they did not live at one certain place, they just traveled around from spot to spot. And every time they would arrive and build up a camp and all of it all over again. So, their camp existed out of tents and pottery and stuff like that, but they could not always bring all this personal possessions and stuff like that because it was way too heavy to carry. And later on, archaeologists can find stuff like that still in the ground, stuck under mud.
Archaeology is tough.
It's a tough job.
Also, the hunters and gatherers hunted and gathered food. I really hope that's already become clear by now. Both men and women hunted for food. It's a very common mistake to say that the men hunted and the women gathered food. Also, they had very great family dynamics. Both parents cared for a child equally. Actually, in most cases, the groups of hunter-gatherers were very equal, both on a social and a political level. Socially, it was quite simple. As long as you helped collect food, you would be accepted. There was no room for laziness. If you didn't help get the food, you wouldn't get to eat any food.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really?
That's interesting, because I was just about to make some tea for us, but I guess you're not getting any now.
That's very unfair.
No, If you want your own tea, you gotta make your own tea. That's how society works, Kiki. It worked then, it works now.
We could also just make Doreen get the tea.
Doreen!
Doreen! Politically, most power went to either the best hunter or the eldest person in the group. The best hunter would be a logical choice because they provided the most food. The eldest would be a choice because they had the most knowledge of how to make tools, how to make fire, where to find fresh water, where most hunting ground would be. Most conflicts and fights within groups would be resolved either by just fighting it out or by dividing up the group into two separate groups, who would then both go their different ways, have children, grow, have fights, split up, live as nomads, and so the human race spread all over the earth.
So that is basically it for this episode. To sum it all up, the Homo sapiens traveled all the way from Africa to Europe and Asia and all these countries and places, and they met up with other species such as the Neanderthals, and they eventually all died.
Which was sad. Very sad. Also, the people within the groups were very, very equal on social and political levels. And once there were conflicts, groups would sometimes split up to go into two different groups, cover more ground, and spread the human race.
And so as they did, we shall now move on, and we'll see you in the next episode. See you later.
Alligator. Today we'll be surviving the time of hunters and gatherers, which is why we're wearing this. Get it? I'm a hunter-gatherer. She's a farmer because she has.
Yeah,
We'll explain this later.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. Just ignore it anyway.